Ki tēnei hui o te kaunihera o ngā roto o Rotorua. Welcome everybody to this Rotorua Lakes Council meeting. Apologies for the slight delay in starting. We just wanted to get everyone here and settled. Before we open with karakia, just a reminder that this meeting is being live streamed and we do have our Rural Community Board presenting to us this morning, which we look forward to. But before we get underway, can I please invite Councillor Patterson to open us with the karakia.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tūtaua mai I runga, tūtaua mai I raro, tūtaua mai I roto, tūtaua mai I waho. Kia tau, ai te Māori tū, te Māori ora, ki te katoa, haumi e, hui e, tae ki e.
Thank you very much. I call for any apologies. I haven't received any. Oh, sorry, Councillor Timothy Benfield.
Yes, just one apology from me. Thank you, Your Worship, as I just have a sharp finish at 3 o'clock today to attend to a personal matter.
Kei te pai, I'm very hopeful that we will be finished by lunchtime, not gone by lunchtime, but finished by lunchtime. And I do believe that we will have Councillor Wang joining us by Zoom, if he's not already there. So, oh, there he is. Kia ora, Councillor Wang. So there are no apologies. Any declarations of interest this morning? There are none. Any urgent items not on the agenda? I do just want to note that there is the Chairperson's report, which I've put in under Standing Order 9.6. This is an opportunity for us to conclude the Head Start pathway decision. And the reason for it not being able to wait till a future meeting is based on a verbal discussion I've had with the Minister regarding an extension. He's not able to give 4 weeks, but he is leaving that door open for us to decide as soon as possible to conclude the decision, given where we landed in the last meeting. So there won't be any new information on that, but we will take it after the items that are already on our agenda, just a heads up. Are there any other urgent items? Nope. And no minor matters? Nope. So I will just ask for a mover and a seconder that the matter of Head Start proposal submission be dealt with at this meeting. I'm happy to move. Do I have a seconder? That's seconded by Councillor Timothy Benfield. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you very much. So we now move to the confirmation of minutes. We've got two there. We've got the 29th of July and also the 7th of August. I'm happy to move. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Sanford, and I will just give some quick updates on the action points. We've had quite substantial meetings lately, which really reflect the significant amount of work that both us and staff have put in. But just on the action point from Councillor Timothy Benfield that requested for, this is regarding Head Start, requested for Eastern Councils to rescind their application and resubmit. We had asked, they had already submitted and needed to keep it that way, so weren't in a position to be able to rescind it. Then also just regarding the remits for our GNZ conference, we voted accordingly as this council had voted, but just for your information, all of the remits were passed through the AGM, so supported by other councils as well. And then just finally, the Rotorua homelessness strategy, He Uru Rau Koromiko, has since been presented at Mayor's Task Force for Jobs and also to the CE of the new MCERT, and has received strong support for a national framework. So we will keep you updated as we look to lead the way. So we have had a mover and a seconder. I'll check if there are just any corrections. Nope, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. We don't have any public forums or petitions, but we do have the notice of motion by Councillor Lee. And I've had a chat with Councillor Lee, and we'll take that at the end of our current agenda item, so I'll ask for a mover and a seconder then. Cool. Okay, Councillor Maxwell? Oh, sorry, towards the end. We'll take it at the end. So we'll get through our agenda items first, as we may have Mr. Hammond join us later. We'll see. So we will move straight into our staff reports, and we're going to start with our Rural Community Board. So it's my pleasure to invite Tina Rose and also Tina Marshall from our Rotorua Rural Community Board to provide an update. So they have a presentation to take us through, which you'll see is also in Stella. And can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this report? That's moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Barco. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? That's carried. Over to you, Tina and Tina.
Good morning, and thank you for having us. We are here today sorry, I have to read my notes. My name is Tina Rose, and this is Tina Marshall. We are two representatives from the Rural Community Board. Rural Community Board was established in 2016 after a representation review. We work with the Rural Ward Councillor to engage and represent the views of the Rural Ward. Today we're presenting to you an update on where the Rural Board portion of the Devolved Fund has been spent. Do you want me? Yeah, thank you. If I can get a handle on it. Good start. So this is our plan on a page. At the beginning of the new triennium, the Rural Board had a series of workshop discussions to formulate some key priorities for the Board's work. These priorities include infrastructure is resilient and meets current and future needs, safe rural communities with access to quality facilities, our natural and built environment are healthy and retain their unique character. Rural communities are resilient, connected and well informed. These priorities form the base of our work streams and form the basis of any funding granted from the Devolved Fund. Devolved funding was first introduced in 2018. Funding transferred from council to community boards to distribute to support aspirations of rural communities. 125,000 distributed each financial year per community board, and this can only be used for council assets. The devolved funding was first introduced in 2000. Oh, done that bit. The Working Party recommended that community boards should be empowered to make tangible decisions within the constituency. The devolved fund was made available to empower the community boards to progress actions and delivery on board objectives in their region. It preserves the right of the community board members to make independent decisions regarding the use of the devolved funding. Community halls. The priorities here are to ensure rural communities are resilient and connected and safe rural communities with access to quality facilities. Waikiri Valley Hall had 148 chairs, totalling $17,000. Mamaku Memorial Hall had 120 chairs, 12 tables, which came to $15,500. Kaharoa Community Hall, 60 chairs and a sound system, which came to $8,500. And Narakuru Hall had a Bluetooth microphone, totaling $200. The upgraded furniture helps ensure rural halls remain welcoming, fit-for-purpose spaces where residents can gather, connect, participate in community activities. By improving the quality and usability of these facilities, the projects strengthen community resilience, encourages social connection, supports safer and more accessible rural meeting places. CCTV. Mamaku had one camera valued at $15,000. The priority here was safe rural communities. In response to community concerns, Mamaku requested the installation of a CCTV camera. This was subsequently installed outside Mamaku School. This camera has proven to be an invaluable asset for the community safety, particularly in helping to protect school children. It has been used on numerous occasions to identify dangerous and illegal driving behaviour, assisting authorities with investigations and promoting safer use of local roads. By enhancing surveillance and supporting crime prevention efforts, the project has contributed to a safer environment for residents, students, visitors, while providing reassurance to the wider community, Mamaku community. Parks and reserves. The priorities here are safe rural communities. The natural and built environment are healthy and retain their unique character. So we had a rescue flotation device at Ruafakaitu, valued at $1,410. Picnic tables at Ruafakaita Domain, $7,000, and a picnic table at Okara Reserve, $7,000. Strategically located for easy access and emergency use, these devices provide an important community resource that can make a critical difference when every second counts. Their presence gives residents and visitors greater confidence that help is available in the event of a medical or water-related emergency. Rotorua Squash Club. Priorities here, infrastructure and resilient meets current and future needs, and safer rural communities. The car park was upgraded with new gravel and professionally levelled, significantly improving access, safety and usability of community members and visitors. A new security light was also installed, enhancing visibility and safety around the facility, particularly during evening activities and events. The car park and removal of the garden debris was $15,000 plus $11,315.
So by the end of the year, we had actually underspent the $125,000 by $27,725. But and as part of the terms of reference for our devolved funding, if we don't spend it for the year, it just goes back to council. It doesn't get rolled over or anything like that. So basically, we made a saving as such. We did have 2 other projects on the go, but one of them came to be far too complex and had ongoing costs for the council, so we decided to do away with that one. And the other one is still in progress, and we're just doing a lot of public consultation and things like that, so that takes time, obviously. So that will probably be falling into the next budget coming up. It obviously takes a considerable amount of time for staff to carry out their due diligence on proposed projects. It can be pretty challenging meeting the deadlines when our budget is cut off at the end of every year, which obviously means that funding can be lost. There is a feeling amongst, and I know the Lakes Board have the same feeling coming up, there is that we should, rather than spending continuously on more assets, because we're restricted to only spending our funding on council assets, we cannot spend it on any maintenance things, but we have a feeling that we should be fixing things rather than continuously buying more assets that obviously the council has to then put on its books and maintain. So we would like to put some thought in and plant the seed in their mind to actually changing the terms of the reference so that we have the option to spend things on maintenance, because we know there's a lot, our halls are in dire need, and we would rather be spending that money helping the communities actually fix up their halls and buying more chairs and more tables and dreaming up things just because to spend that money. We'd actually rather, and hopefully that would also make a saving in the council and their maintenance budgets as well, if we could just be, have more options available to us. So that's our presentation. If anyone's got any questions.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the presentation and also making sure that we're well informed of the significant value that this devolved funding has been given across our rural community. Do we have any questions? Councillor Te Mara Benfell.
Thank you, Your Worship. Not so much a question, but a comment, if I can. Thank you for your presentation today, and particularly with regards to your recommendations around the terms of reference, particularly for myself as a new councillor. That's sort of something that sort of slipped under the radar, and I absolutely agree with your point around maintaining and looking after what we've already got rather than continually adding new things, which we'll have to be maintaining in a few years' time anyway. So thank you for your time this morning and for bringing that to light, but also just wanted to highlight, in saying that, the awesome diversity of work that you've managed to achieve over the last year is really, really, it's awesome. It's absolutely awesome. And across, from your report, I can't see a focus on any one particular community, so I don't see too much bias in any of your spending. It seems pretty well spread across the entire rural community, which is to be commended as well. So, yeah, definitely in support of your recommendation. And thank you for being solutions focused as well. That's a key.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor O'Kawate.
Thank you. And thank you for the mahi that you do for your communities, rural communities. I just wanted to ask, and I think you're quite right in terms of, where the money would be better spent, and also the council would get better value for money as well. Have you thought about asking for council for a review of those terms of reference so it suits the needs of the communities rather than perhaps where we think things should be done.
We, with the Lakes Board as well, are having the same issue, so I think there is something coming in the pipeline, yes. I actually do have another few comments, sorry. We do actually have our working document, or you didn't bring a copy, that encompasses everything that is the rural board, that has our work plan and everything, and it is quite a comprehensive document that is available on the council website if anyone's interested to have a look. Yeah, and also I would like to thank the council staff that support our board. They've all been fantastic. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And sorry, if we'll go Councillor Maxwell and then a final question from Councillor Timera Benfell. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. The question I've got is, does the Nongataha Hall come under your allocation, or are they in a rural not a rural setting, an urban hall? Are they under your
currently all
jurisdiction?
Yeah, currently as it is, yeah, as well as the Akirika one too, which is kind of more urban as well. Yeah.
And did you say in your presentation that they can't do some maintenance work on them? I thought.
Not under the terms of for our devolved funding that we're allocated every year, under the terms of restaurants, we cannot do maintenance work. It has to just be on assets.
I thought
like capital items, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What I'd like to do is just note as an action point for our staff to just follow up on the policy and advise council as an option how or when that can be changed. So I'm not sure whether that's just coming up through our RTP or it's a policy change that needs to come to council. So at least based on the great presentation that you have given us today and your concerns, we can move as quick as possible to resolve that.
That would be fantastic, thanks. We tried to dig back into the terms of reference to find how they actually got brought together, but we haven't been able to do that as yet because it was a few years back and staff have changed to see what the thinking was behind what they did in the first place. But that would be wonderful, thank you.
That's okay, we'll work on that together. And sorry, Councillor Timera Benfell, you had a...
Yes, sorry, just one more question. Could you just provide the council with a little bit of insights into how your decision-making processes sort of take place, or how you identify where to allocate those funds? Is it via a application process, or is it just by community insights or board member opinion, or what does that decision-making process look like?
Yes, there is an application process. So I believe, like in a couple of weeks, it's going back online. It goes online for 6 weeks, and it goes out to all communities, or we actually post it to all communities, encouraging them to find out what they need in their community and complete this form. It then comes back to the governance team, I believe, and they work for the process of finding costings and viability of what can be done, and then it comes to us for a decision, and we talk about it, and then that's how the decision is made.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We appreciate your presentation to us today, and as mentioned, we'll get back to both you and all of our councillors on that action point on how we can move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tina and Tina. Okay, so now we look to our agenda. We are on page 38 now, and I'd like to invite Robert Griffith up to overview the report, and this is the electoral system and voting documents. May I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this? That's moved by Councillor Timera Benfell, seconded by Councillor Lee. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you, Robert.
Good day, Your Worship. Through you, tēnā koutou councillors, as much as I'd love to spend the whole morning talking at you, I'll take the report mainly as read. It's quite technical, but I've tried to include as much in there as possible, and there's a number of decisions, so any questions you have, please send them my way.
Thank you very much. And this is something that comes to council as part of a cycle for us to review, and so there really is an option before us. So the first one will be whether we wish to do first past the post system as per usual, or change to a single transferable vote system, and then of course how do the names on voting documents be arranged. So we are open for any questions if there are any. I think the report's explained it quite well though, Robert, thank you. Councillor Te Marabenfell.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And you just correct me if I'm wrong, Robert. I think one thing I wondered is, do we ever provide the pros and cons of each system? I see that the report outlines what the system is and what it does, but it doesn't, from my perspective, it doesn't clearly outline this is the benefits if you go with the system, this is the benefits if you go with that system. It's sort of quite just here it is, what do you reckon type. Is that the right, do we ever do that?
I haven't done that in the report. I think the answer gets a bit complicated, and it would depend what kind of expert you ask, and there's a number of variables that affect voter turnout and things like that, and it would be, I can't make an assumption that it will make a positive impact on the election either way. I think that's for you guys to decide. But there's a lot of information out there about the pros and cons of each. Obviously, there's some discussion that STV is more democratic, but then it can be a bit more complicated for people, and the New Zealand STV is a little bit different than the standard STV you might have seen. I've sort of tried to explain in the report there, but yeah, there's no right or wrong answer, I think, which is partly why I didn't put forward a recommendation.
Thank you. And I do think it's usual practice just in general for staff not to recommend preferred options in these cases. It is a governance decision, but yeah. Sorry, any further questions? Councillor Lee, do you have a question?
I can construct a question on the fly, Madam Chair. Thank you for your report, Rob. Page 41. Candidates are elected by reaching a calculated quota. This is under the single transferable voting system. I presume it's a computer that does the calculating, is it?
Yeah, there's an equation that's used to calculate the quota. I mean, you can use a computer or a human to do it. And I think that's partly what I was alluding to in that last answer, that generally what you might have seen in STV methods is that when a candidate you voted for doesn't get in, that vote's then counted towards your next preferred candidate. But in the New Zealand STV system, if your candidate gets in, then a proportional amount of that vote for that candidate that's got past the quota then gets put back into your next preferred candidate, so it can get quite complicated. And that's why partly you'll see if you go and look at other election results, some candidates have voting totals that lower in each round even though they've reached the quota, because part of their vote has then been proportioned to the next preferred candidate. But it's probably a very technical but specific method. It is quite interesting.
So when there's a first past the post close race, there's some mechanism whereby a judge can actually count the votes. Has there been any STV kind of close judicial tests in that sense? Are you aware?
Through you, Chair. No, I mean, the likelihood of any kind of review coming from an election, I think, is not about the voting method itself. It's usually about other things that have occurred during the election.
No further questions, thank you.
Thank you. And I do note in Robert's report as well that 63 of New Zealand's 78 local authorities use first past the post, so that's 81%, which kind of just shows the effectiveness and simpleness, I suppose.
If I may, Chair, as well, I think Hamilton City Council just changed to FPP as well, so that number is even smaller now as well.
Oh, thank you. Okay, well, there are no further questions. What I'd like to do is move to A, that Council, pursuant to Section 27 of the Local Electoral Act 2001, resolves to hold the 2028 and 2031 local elections using the A first past the post system. That's seconded by Deputy Mayor. And point 3, that Council note that should a valid demand for a poll of electors be received prior to 11th of December 2026, the demand would supersede a resolution of Council made under Section 27 of the Local Electoral Act. So that's been moved and seconded. I'll check if there is any discussion. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to support first past the post. I like the idea of keeping things simple, so simple that a judge can easily do a recount if necessary. I'm a software guy, so my job is I could make a computer do anything, including a voting system. I don't like the idea of computers sort of getting their hands dirty and in the amongst of all of that. So keep it simple and short, just like this speech, in my view.
Like all good things, thank you very much. So what I'm going to do is I'll put this one and then I'll move to the point 5 about the order. So all those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Aye. That's carried unanimously, thank you. And now I'll look to point 5 and I'd like to move random order, but we're open for discussion. That Council, pursuant to Regulation 31 of the Local Electoral Regulations Act 2001, resolves that candidate names on voting documents for the 2028 local elections be arranged in a random order. And the other options, of course, were pseudo-random order or alphabetical order of surname. But I suggest 2A. Is that seconded by Councillor Barker? Any discussion on this? No, straightforward. Thank you. I will put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Aye. And that is also carried unanimously. Thank you. We will move on to the next item, which is now, I'm going to call up David Jensen and also Michelle Overbeek. We're at our financial update June 2026. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to receive this? That's moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Timera Benfell. All those in favour to receive this update, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. And we have a PowerPoint presentation as well, so I'd like to hand over to Michelle.
Good morning, through you, Your Worship. Good morning, councillors. I will start off by saying that I'll keep this short and sweet, and I'll take the report as read. I just want to talk to a few points on the... Oh, thank you. This is our draft position as at the 30th of June for the current financial year, and we'll be going through a series of significant adjustments around fixed asset revaluations, which will happen through the audit process that we're already in the preparation stages, but we will be heading into final audits in the next few weeks. Our operational revenue is currently 12 million over budget. This has largely been driven by the Tarawera Sewage Scheme capital contributions that have come in, which were unexpected. And this is also offset with in addition to that, we've also had some funding revenue that has come through for some severe weather events that we've had. Offset with our expenditure, also 12 million over year to date. This is largely driven by some of our repair costs in relation to the weather events, also some inflationary increases that we've had on contractors as a result of fuel pricing increases, etc., and then unplanned legal expenditure. I'll move on to capital revenue. We're below our budget on capital revenue. This is largely due to the delays in the stormwater program. We haven't been able to meet those funding milestones because of capital delays and other issues. But equally so, our capital expenditure is down, so not a major impact in terms of our financials at this stage. I will note, though, that because of the delays in our capital expenditure, our debt is actually lower than we anticipated it would be at this time. We are 490 million year to date, and we expect it to be around 507 million in our annual plan. There we go. Despite the ups and downs over the year, we have ended on a small operational surplus compared to our budgets, which is an indication that we have actually come in within our budget envelope, which I believe is a really good result. And I'll just move over to the capital project slide. I do want to note that even though we are below our capital delivery budgets, for this financial year due to the stormwater program, we have still delivered a relatively high program of around 95 million, which is largely in line with what we've done over the past 3 years as well. So it does appear to be well done. And if you look at our renewals, we have spent almost 93% of our budget on our renewals. So it does indicate that we are taking care of our assets that we own. That's all I wanted to bring to your attention today. Our finance team will be pretty busy over the next few weeks in preparation for final audits. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
Thank you very much, Michelle and David. And I do want to really acknowledge your comment that, you know, sometimes when we view the spend, it is actually showing that we're looking after our assets. So we'll open for questions now. Councillor Te Mara-Benfell, followed by Councillor Barker.
Kia ora, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your report this morning as well. Just a question regarding the, I think we are behind on our budget regarding DCs. What's driving? Is that the capital works driving that, or is that what's driving that under budget? That 7.3 million.
Thank you through the chair. Thank you for your question, councillor. The development contribution revenue is behind budget for two reasons primarily. One is that the overall development in the city is slightly behind where we budgeted it might be when we prepared the budget. But the main reason is because Rotorua went through about a decade with no DC policy, and there were a lot of applications that were made through those periods that we're still flushing through the system as we're building those houses that were consented back when we had no policy. So there's a bit of a lag effect, making sure that we clear those, and any new applications that come through will attract DCs, but at the moment there's a bit of a lag where we're processing some of the ones that came through where there was no policy and we cannot charge.
Just a supplementary. So do we, I suppose through any of our plan or strategy, I did see later on in the agenda we've got some information about some new technology potentially investing in, but is there anything that we're doing to I suppose make that right in terms of that being behind on our DCs, or to incentivise development, I suppose, across the city?
Thank you, councillor. Important to make a distinction between the fee that we collect for a consent, which is like a $300 application fee, or for our building consent team. It's different to a DC. So a DC is intended to recover the capital cost of all the roads and pipes. That's a repayment of debt that we've taken on over time. The fact that we are behind budget on our DCs now doesn't mean that we won't get all that money back over time. It just means that it'll happen a little more slowly than we had forecast.
Thank you. Councillor Barker, followed by Sanford.
Thank you, Worship. Thank you, team, for the report. Just on page 50, with respect to the administration expenses, you've noted that we are a little bit ahead, and that there was some part due to the additional audit fees. Can you just explain what's happened with the audit fees and why that's gone up?
Thank you, councillor. Through the chair, there were a number of. I guess if we look at the explanation in the report, it's made up of two main reasons driving that negative variance. Asset revaluations have become significantly more complicated, especially in the years post-COVID, when the construction unit rates went crazy, inflation went through, and a lot of the old methodology needed to be revised and changed to prove exactly what those assets were worth. And so a large share of that negative variance is the additional expense it takes us to prove to the auditors that we understand what our assets are worth in a post-COVID world. There was some additional audit work required through the last annual report. There was an OAG investigation, for example. There was some work on a prior period adjustment that we had to make and correct on prior some years when we needed to change the treatment of some things that had. I wouldn't take that as being indicative of trend going forward, but in that year there were some additional expenses that we had to work through with audit.
Thank you. Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and 2 questions, if I may, and thank you very much for the report. This is a bit of a Groundhog Day question. The first one, the Stormwater Growth Program, and I'm not sure if you can answer this, but how is that variation going? Because I feel like every time we come back to this meeting, we're waiting on the government's decision. Are we any closer?
Might just ask our CE to respond to that one. Thank you.
At the risk of providing a Groundhog Day answer, Councillor Sanford, through you, Your Worship, just we've had further correspondence since you asked this last, and the correspondence is that it is tracking positively. However, Cabinet has a significant amount of decisions on its plate at the moment, some of which we've discussed recently. The good news is obviously they need to make a final decision before the election, and so that is effectively the sunset date for us. The challenge we've got, as I'm sure you're aware, is a lot of the work that's funded by that program is groundwork, which can only be done in the earthworks season. So we're really hoping we get the decision in time to be able to activate contractors, complete design, get approvals, so that we don't miss the next earthworks season.
Thank you for the answer. And another question, just on the in your presentation, there's a diagram with spaces, places, and rec, and the actual spend is quite far below the budgeted spend. And I think you spoke to this at the last meeting, but I can't remember what it was about. Could you just tell us why we're, I think, 8 million behind in spaces, places, and recreation?
I might have a go at this and see if the numbers are right, but I understand this is largely Titoki Place and the challenges we've had completing some of the pre-work around civil engineering, etc., to enable those sports fields to come online. And I'm not seeing any pale faces from my exec who tell me that I've got that completely wrong. So it's about right.
Thank you. And a final question from Councillor O'Kawate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure if I missed this, but did I hear you say that are we applying DCs retrospectively?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question. Through the Chair, we basically spend a lot of money up front to enable subdivisions to be created. So we build all the roads and pipes, and that exists on council's debt, essentially, in our balance sheet. There were a number of years where we did not have a policy that enabled us to charge developers for their share of that work. When we introduced we drew a line in the sand and introduced the policy, we can charge people who apply from that date onwards, but we can't go back and charge the people who applied when we did not have a policy. And that's the challenge at the moment, that if someone applies and has a consent, it may take 7 years for them to build the house. And there's a lag period for us to flush out the stuff that we are working on now, the houses that are being built now, that were applied for when there was no policy and we could not charge them a DC.
Madam Chair, I presume, I'm sure obviously the developers are aware that would be the case, but that could be quite significant 7 years down the track. And so I'm just, and I wonder, will we have any difficulty getting those DCs at some stage?
At this stage, through the Chair, we're not anticipating the non-recovery of any debt. It's just it will take longer, especially human nature. There were a flurry of applications once developers knew a DC policy was coming, and so we're working through those.
Thank you. I think it's been quite helpful for our information and knowledge to understand in more detail how that works. Appreciate that. Thank you. Well, that concludes our financial update. So we now move to the appointment of councillors to Rotorua Lakes Strategy Group. This is on page 3 in Cellar in the late items agenda. And I'll first of all ask for a mover and a seconder to receive this. I'm happy to move. That's seconded by Councillor Sanford. All those in favour to receive, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. And I'll just overview this briefly. This is an administrative paper. So what we have usually at the start of every term, and we appoint councillors to various groups. This Te Aroha Lakes Strategy Group is a management group that consists of Rotorua Lakes Council, Bay Plenty Regional Council, and of course Te Aroha Lakes Trust. So this was established based on the settlement of Te Aroha Lakes Trust, and this group helps to improve, protect, and provide the sustainable management of the lakes and their catchments, in particular the 14 lakes that Te Aroha Lakes Trust have ownership of the lake beds. And so previously it has been myself and Councillor Brown, and the suggestion before you in the paper is just considering councillors' workloads and also supporting future opportunities for growth. We have recommended that Councillor Temara Benfell replace Councillor Brown, and Councillor Brown will then be our alternate, which we didn't have an alternate here. So he will still attend when he wishes, or if either myself or Councillor Temara Benfell aren't able to attend. Are there any questions? No? Well, I'm therefore happy to move that Council appoint Councillor Temara Benfell as Council's representative on the Rotorua Te Aroha Lakes Strategy Group alongside me, Tapsell, and appoint Councillor Greg Brown as the alternate. Do I have a seconder? That's seconded by Councillor Maxwell. Any discussion? No? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you, and I will update the strategy group. We might just take a quick, because we're about to go into the Head Start proposal and then notice of motion, so I might just take a quick 5-minute break now. Oh, actually, let's do 10 minutes. 10-minute break now, and we'll come back at 10:25. Thank you. you and welcome back. Appreciate that brief break. We are now going to attempt to resolve this Head Start proposal submission. So this has been distributed separately, as mentioned, as a chairperson's report under standing orders. I do apologise for, I suppose, what's the word? I do apologise that this wasn't distributed in our normal agenda 7 days prior, as just last week I heard from Minister Simon Watts, who was not able to give us the 4-week extension because of the timing of Cabinet needing to make a decision, but has, fortunately for us, offered to leave the door open to us if we chose to go in or not. So this was the next available opportunity, which is why it has been raised in urgency for us to conclude this. So that's why it's before us. And first of all, I'll just ask if we can have a mover and a seconder to receive this report, and then I'll give it a quick overview. So it's moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Te Mara-Benfell. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Now, just briefly, and we have talked at great length about Head Start, so I don't want to labour this any further, but what you will see in front of you are 3 clear options. These options have taken on board the concerns and the feedback from councillors to provide you with a decision and a direction moving forward to either ask the Chief Executive option 1, develop a joint eligible proposal for Rotorua Central Unitary with Tauranga Council, and I'll explain them in a little bit more detail shortly, or option 2, and this one I hope reflects those concerns better, submit a central Rotorua unitary proposal only, and in that one we will specifically note that although it is not eligible, we note our objection to force unwilling councils into this process. And then, of course, option 3, submit the work completed to date for information only, so that will accept that Rotorua will progress into the backstop option, but given that there has been substantial work put into this, not only by staff, councillors, myself, but also feedback from the community and the co-design of Te Aroha Iwi chairs. So at least the government-led approach, if we end up in backstop, will be well informed and that work will not go to waste. So if I can just explain a little bit further the situation that we find ourselves in. As you know, Eastern councils have submitted. They weren't in a position or have intention to rescind that for us to then join them. And Western Bay of Plenty voted against to go into Head Start, which leaves, Taupo District Council wished to go on their own, and South Waikato went into the Waikato. So through the last 3 months, there's been a substantial amount of work, but we do find ourselves in a situation where Rotorua did not have a council to amalgamate with. So in order to end up in the Head Start proposal where we can make a decision for ourselves, we needed to make a submission based on the eligibility criteria of 2 or more councils going together. So I do apologise we weren't able to pull off the plan of submitting as a Bay of Plenty region, but you will see that consistently across the Bay of Plenty region there has been agreement on the natural sub-regions of being central, Rotorua, fortunately for us by ourselves, but of course in the eastern with the 3 councils, and for Tauranga and Western with the 2. I do want to acknowledge and really appreciate the value and the strong principle that has come from this table of not wanting to force anyone into a situation where they're unwilling. And I do acknowledge that this is also difficult for myself, having led that principle at this council table through the Bay of Plenty Mural Forum and our discussions, and also advocating across the country, actually, when we have had our local government New Zealand meetings with other mayors and councils, encouraging people to, as much as possible, proceed with this opportunity in a collaborative way. What I will also know, and I just really want to emphasise, is though it feels hard with Western Bay of Plenty choosing not to go in it, what we need to be mindful is that as a region, if we choose not to go through with Tauranga City Council, we will also be forcing a council and a community who is very willing and wanting to proceed with Head Start to no longer be eligible for that. So as you know, the Head Start process means that we can determine our own future. We get the opportunity for detailed design with community consultation, and also that allows us to make our own decisions, whereas the backstop would not begin until after all of the Head Start councils, which you'll see there are a significant amount of proposals that have come through from around the country. After those are completed, March next year, then government at the time will look to those in the backstop option. So essentially, what do we know for sure? Although there's a lot of uncertainty, we know for sure that in 2028 the regional councillors will be gone. We will need to acquire and begin transitioning the core and key functions of the regional council by 2028. But we also know for sure, as signalled in the Head Start pathway proposals, that those that are in backstop, although we may not be part of a unitary finalised council by 2028, we will then look to 2031 and for that election to be a new unitary. So although there is a lot of uncertainty, if I can put it into the context of what we know, is that if we wish to make our own decisions, if we wish to determine our own destiny, if we wish to make the best decision for Rotorua, understanding that those regional councillors will be gone by 2028, then Head Start with Tauranga City Council is the only option for us to do that before 2028. Otherwise, we will be in a position where we won't be beginning that work until mid next year. So not in time for the 2028 election, unless the government decide to make their decision for us earlier. So it is a matter of timing, it is a matter of making a hard decision, which has been against our wishes. It was not this council and it was not this community that asked for mergers or amalgamations, and I do want to acknowledge that there are still significant concerns, risks and lack of information that we still need to address. My ask for you today is that you allow us to do that through the detailed design proposal, and you also allow us to acknowledge that consistently across the region, including in the community engagement, there has been support for the natural sub-regions. And of all of the regions, and all of those sub-regions, Tauranga and Western Bay of Plenty are unfortunately the most logical to be merging, where they quite literally share infrastructure, roads, pipes at times. So before I conclude my little spiel, then we open up for any questions, and then ask for a mover and a seconder, and then any comments. That is the basis of the report that's before us. That is also why I signal that I will move option 1. If that fails, we'll then go to option 2 and then to option 3 accordingly. But I wanted to emphasise that that is why we are trying to conclude this. We weren't able to have 4 weeks. The ministers allowed us this opportunity. We need to show some direction for our community, and I also really want to thank Te Aroha Iwi chairs who really put significant time and effort into this as well to help us to co-design this alongside our chair of the Rural Community Board and the Lakes Community Board, and of course the many members of our community that provided feedback, including our Rotorua Chamber and also our Rotorua Youth Council. Nobody had ever told me through that process that they wanted to be part of backstop. So I do hope that whatever option we land on today, we are able to show leadership for Rotorua. So we are open for any questions, if you have any. Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Your Worship. And just one, it's a bit of a technical question. I noticed in our report that it states that Tauranga City Council has submitted a proposal already. Will they be withdrawing that proposal? I know it's not an eligible proposal because they submitted it by themselves, but will they withdraw that proposal if we were to vote for option 1 for us to be able to submit a compliant proposal jointly?
I might ask the Chief Executive, but to put quite simply, because it's not an eligible proposal, both Tauranga and then also ourselves, so councillors are aware of this, but based on advice from MCERT staff, to make the deadlines, we submitted the draft subject to approval. So knowing that we had requested an extension, and if possible, then that comes to a final council meeting depending on what option. So put simply, my understanding is that as it's not eligible, we've basically shared information, but we have not yet put in a proposal. So unlike Eastern, Tauranga would not necessarily have to rescind. We will then just, they are ready to go, and it will depend on what the decision of us is, and then that's why we direct the Chief Executive to work with them. Our proposals will remain the same. They will be submitted together. So just also technical, they won't be changing anything that comes from our initial proposal that's been presented to Council, as we won't change anything from theirs. So we don't need to approve each other's proposal for that, if that makes sense. C, do you have anything further to add?
Maybe just on the technicalities. So based on what I've been told, the deadline's close, so arguably everything's ineligible, but in terms of the mechanics of submitting it, I've been working with Tauranga City Council Chief Executive, and they're authorised to combine their document with ours into a single proposal that achieves the intent that was passed at their meeting, which is to create a single unitary authority out of Western Bay. And Tauranga City Council, obviously they couldn't do that and submit it as an eligible proposal without our council agreeing. And if this resolution is passed, then that would meet that threshold, and we could work together to combine the two documents, ask that it be treated as a single proposal, and then submit that to MCERT.
Councillor Barker and then Lee.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question probably for the CE, since you've been talking to MCERT, and have you been talking at all to the Western Bay and Tauranga, or Western Bay particularly? Have they had any contact with MCERT, and have they changed their position at all in the last week and a half?
Councillor, I've been working with their chief executives, not with their mayors or elected members. Maybe others have been doing that. My understanding is they don't have any scheduled agenda to reopen their decision to not support an amalgamation and not participate in Head Start. So there's nothing scheduled in their agenda to reopen that matter.
And also to further clarify, they did hold, so I haven't spoken with the Mayor since, but did notify the Mayor that we were granted, Mayor James Denyer, that we were granted a brief extension, and we were likely, given that we had a council meeting today, to resolve it on Wednesday. He let me know that they have a workshop on Tuesday, but was clear that that has no decision making at the workshop. It's not a council meeting. So to answer your question, no, they have not changed their position, and I have not had any feedback that there's been any change in the support or not there as well. So can't confirm that, but I would be reasonably confident that they have not changed, because I don't have anything else to say otherwise. Sorry, that was all. Thank you. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is reminds me of Hotel California. We stabbed it with our steely knives, but we just cannot kill the beast. Why are we here? I thought we'd made a decision on the 7th of August, and we're being presented with this. Can you help me?
Yeah, thank you. And I might just check if staff want to talk around the technicalities of that. There was not a decision on a direction, put simply. So we had decided previously in the 29th meeting that we would submit a Head Start. The Friday was mostly focused on the proposal, but of course what happened, which was very difficult for all of us to navigate at such short notice, was the day prior, Western Bay of Plenty voted no. So I think given that there has been a significant change in circumstances, including since that decision with the Minister accepting an extension, I do believe that as best as possible we have acted in good faith and intent with what the Council direction has been so far. So ensuring that all opportunities remain open until the Council does make a decision on whether to be in Head Start or in Backstop.
Sorry, I haven't seen any indication that the Minister has granted an extension. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, that's correct. So we have not received that in writing. He gave me a call last Wednesday and then on Thursday. As you know, I was on leave with my family, but did give Andrew a call straight away. And then from there, Andrew and Sam reviewed the previous decisions, helped to draft the report in front of you, and then I have finalised that and submitted it, and I do apologise that that's all happened at such short notice. But to be very clear on what the Minister's conversation with me was, he noted that he's unfortunately just not able to give us 4 weeks because of the timelines of the Cabinet decision. And to put that into context, Parliament rises on the 24th of September. Right now, MCERT staff have been working through the proposals. Andrew may have something to add on this. MCERT staff have been working through on the proposals, and quite honestly, when they say September, it sounds to me like it is early to mid-September, so we just simply didn't have enough time for the 4 weeks that were originally requested, but he did confirm. And I want to express that he has been genuine in his confirmation and his words that he wants to support and see the best for Rotorua. So if that meant allowing us a little bit more time to make a final decision on whether or not we are in Head Start or Backstop, he was willing to do that. So he does have the discretion to do that as Minister of Local Government.
So in light of our decisions on the 7th of August, you're asking us to reconsider our options. Wouldn't that require a revocation of the decisions of the 7th of August?
I might, Councillor Lee, through you, Madam Chair, just going to go over the technicalities. So, Councillor Lee, there were no resolutions on the 7th of August. So there were no resolutions passed. So there isn't a revocation required of the decisions of the 7th of August because there were no decisions. The decisions of the 29th of July, I've been looking through, and they were largely either given effect to by me delivering the paper to you on the 7th of August, or were not able to be fulfilled because of the change in circumstances, hence the staff paper that you received on the 7th of August. Since then, there hasn't been, I don't have the evidence of any change in circumstances, so I haven't been able to bring a staff paper to you. What you've got is you've got a chair's paper based on the discussions Her Worship has had with the Minister, and it's the chair's entitled to do that, understanding Order 9.6, and so that's the format in which you have received the report in front of you.
But we did have a vote on the 7th of August. Doesn't that amount to a decision?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the revocation itself, it relates to its actual actions and decisions that have been made. So in the way that it's written, that's not my view. And particularly for options 2 and 3, those are options that even on the day would have been available if someone had moved those 2 options. So those don't relate at all to anything that was discussed on the day. And for option 1, based on the paper that the Mayor's produced, the situation has changed in that time. So similar to the advice that we gave on the 7th, that things have changed in that time, so it essentially becomes a new decision. But that's for option 1, and then for options 2 and 3, those are both things that aren't contained in any of the things that were put to the vote on the 7th of August. So would be things that even on the 7th of August could have been moved by anybody on that day.
Okay, well, thank you for your thoughts. Just a comment, if I may. We were messaged at around 7:30 last night telling us this paper had arrived. I didn't actually get my message till 8 o'clock this morning. This is not normal. This is very unpleasant to be having to deal with items like this at such short notice.
Thank you, and I have apologised for the short notice and let you know the reasons behind that, which were out of my control. But as I mentioned in the email on Monday, we did have an extension. We were preparing, so I have attempted to give you as much notice as possible. Bearing in mind this has been a very difficult discussion that we've all had for the past 3 months, so no new information has been presented. In this report, what I have attempted to do, though, is to take on board, as I mentioned, the concerns and feedback of councillors and at least present to us a way forward for you to make that decision. We now go to Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just first, procedural question. Given we're only at nearly 11:15, so most of the meeting has gone shooting by, we've now got to probably the most important part of the meeting, without a doubt. What is your ruling on allowing more questions on this issue today?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. I think we have had adequate discussion, but given the significance of it, it's up to you. I'm open.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, firstly, I have some questions about the content of the report, if I may. Under 2, executive summary, it says, paragraph 2, Rotorua Lakes Council did not conclude the process and instead submitted a draft proposal and requested an extension of time be approved by the Minister of Local Government for Council to confirm final approval or not. Rotorua Lakes Council and instead submitted. I'm pretty sure that it says in the transcripts that the CE was not authorised to submit anything. So how did Rotorua Lakes Council submit this?
Yeah, thank you. And let me be very clear, we did not submit a Head Start pathway proposal. Instead, based on the advice from MCERT staff to our CE, given the timeframes. So our meeting was on Friday. The deadline, oddly, was on a Sunday, leaving no opportunity or working time for us to then conclude that decision. So instead, a draft of what we had already collated was submitted, subject to council approval. So I did email councillors on that Sunday when I personally, as Mayor, on behalf of Council, made that draft submission to ensure that at least the door remained open for us to, if extension granted by the Minister, to be able to make a decision. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that. And in the same sentence it says, a brief extension was granted by the Minister. So I did a bit of poking around and the government's public website still says the submission period closed on the 9th. MCERT's current Head Start page confirms that proposals are now being assessed. So the extension, I know it's a verbal extension. I'm concerned that we are, and I'm not trying to say we're not taking your word for it, but legally, where does that leave us? If we don't have that in writing, that we've been granted an extension, we could be going through this whole process and MCERT said no, and yet the Minister has said yes. So this is where we're sitting in the rock and a hard place.
Yeah, and thank you very much, Councillor Patterson, for the respectful manner in which you're asking these questions, which are very good questions to ask. So yes, unfortunately, I do only have verbal approval, but what I would say is the Minister of Local Government does have the powers to do that, so he is the Minister of which MCERT staff, he is the Minister that advises and directs the MCERT staff. So in terms of hierarchy, I feel confident that if the Minister has given me his word, and I do apologise, I should have thought at the time to ask him to give that to me in writing, but given it was just last week, we moved straight into trying to get the options ready. So we are working on the word of a Minister, but I will say I think I personally feel quite grateful that I have a good enough relationship with the existing Minister of Local Government that he does feel that he can give me a call provide this opportunity, give his word, and for us that has meant that Rotorua does not miss out on finalising if that is what we wish to do. So yes, it's not usual process, as in you won't see that extension on a government website or unfortunately in writing for us, but it is a valid opportunity that's there for us, and then subject to this being approved, if it is approved, I do expect that that will be put into the Head Start proposal, or what we will do is confirm that that draft submission that we've given is only for information into a backstop. So, yeah.
Thank you. You've answered quite a few questions that I had there, so well done. And lastly, not quite sure the wording of this. It says, must be under 3 background, paragraph 4, there's the statement, Western Bay of Plenty District Council narrowly resolved not to participate. 6-4 was the vote, so that's not really narrowly. I'm not trying to just nitpick, but my understanding is that if it had been 5-5, then Mayor Denyer could have used his casting vote and we would have been hunky-dory. But that wasn't. It was 6-4. My understanding also is that on the workshop on the 30th of July, the final of their 8 confidential workshops that they had, which they've now published the minutes publicly, that was the one where they voted 6-4 against as well. So it was quite clear on that day, apparently, that the 6-4 vote was not going to change from the 30th of July to when they had their final meeting. So my question is, how is, you just reiterated before that you didn't think their position was going to change either, which I understand, it's their decision. But how were we, when we had our meeting on the 5th of August, not told that this was the likely outcome? Because that would have given us a few more days to think how we're going to deal with this issue? Because did you not have conversations with them in between the 30th of July and the 5th of August meeting?
Yeah, thank you, and I'll try my best to answer this. The reason why I use the word narrowly in the report is 6-4 is actually only one vote, because as you mentioned, it then would have been 5-5, and Mayor James Denyer has been clear that the feedback he's received and the logical way forward for them was to be the Western Unitary. And so that's why I term that as narrowly. And that's in comparison to the strong support of Tauranga, which, sorry, I didn't check their vote, but Mayor Mahe did tell me that it was unanimous. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, so theirs was unanimous. So that just helps, I hope, to reiterate how they were feeling around the council table as well. And just like us, it's been a difficult decision, and it at times has been close. If I can then answer your question around the 30th of July or the 5th of August, apologies, my understanding was that Thursday was the final decision-making day, so I understand that all the mayors from around the region were actively watching that, and I was in Wellington at the local Government New Zealand rural and provincial meeting alongside 2 of the Eastern mayors as well, and we were actively watching it. And then as soon as Western Bay made their decision, then that's when the Eastern Bay decided, well, today's Thursday, tomorrow's the last day, let's just make the submission, because essentially that one vote did impact the whole region and our plan to submit as a Bay of Plenty region. So I hope that gives it context, and there was probably signals, yes, for those of us who are watching the meetings of all different councils. You know, we've all been doing this. There probably was signals that there were concerns, but we just simply don't know that until the final vote. So, yeah.
Thank you. The reason I raised that is that I think if we'd known, because when you go through the agenda and the comments made on the day on our workshop of the 5th of August, there were references that somebody was unhappy. But we didn't know who that somebody was. Could have been Kawerau. We didn't know who that was. If it turned out that it was Western Bay, then that would have changed the light, I think, on how we progress, because without them, you know, we might have been able to work without Kawerau, but we certainly cannot work without Western Bay, or this whole concept. So that's all I was concerned about. I'll leave my questions there. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think Chief Executive might just provide some comments based on those questions too.
Yeah, Councillor, just want to reiterate on the 29th of July paper, I think the paper is quite clear that the final approval, and it was in your resolutions, that the proposal can only be finalised with the approval of the other named councils. And inherent in that is the risk that every council needs to make their own decisions based on the merits that they see. Certainly I don't feel, as Chief Executive, it's my role to predict that those councils would vote in a certain way, and in accepting a proposal that's contingent on other councils' decisions, that's an inherent risk, which, as it turns out, transpired.
Thank you. I just recall a comment that Sam made. What was it? Don't count your chickens before they hatch? Thank you.
Thank you. We've got Councillor Maxwell, Brown and then Barker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is this still question time? Yep, so just got a couple of questions. My one was, can you refresh my memory, was it a council meeting or was it a workshop when we kind of gave a strong indication at the time, the way the land was, the things were happening at the time, that we voted on a kind of a 9 to support, 1 against and 1 abstaining. And then when we had our meeting on the 7th of August, we got the 11th hour situation of Western Bay Plenty, and we ended up with nothing happening at that meeting other than we decided to do nothing. So answering the question, can you please tell me, was that a resolution at the time of the 911?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. So through you, Chair. So the 911 resolution was in the July meeting, and so the decision on that date was to come back to council on the 7th of August. And then when it came back to council, that was the day where no decisions were made.
So I think to also answer your question, the day prior things had changed with Western Bay Plenty in particular, and so that changed the views as we heard from councillors. But of course there was, I mean, I don't want to speak for other councillors, but on the 29th we were still really in a final expiration stage. By the final day, of course, we had the proposal before us ready to adopt, but another council's decision also changed it. So there were genuine concerns still before finalising whether or not we go into Head Start proposal.
And sorry to clarify that, I appreciate that in some of my answers I might have been a bit loose on my wording so far. So decisions were made but no resolutions were passed. I think might clarify some of the questions as well. So no resolutions were passed on that final meeting, although appreciate decisions were made, and then resolutions also relate, Councillor Lee, to your question earlier in terms of revocation. So because there was no resolution, there's nothing to revoke. So apologies that I wasn't clear on my wording when I answered that question previously.
That's quite all right. Okay, thank you. Councillor Brown and then Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just for clarity, by voting for option 1, as is on the table, we're encouraging, I guess, the Minister to impose his will on Western Bay against their will, against their decisions.
Actually, that would be more likely option 2. So option 1 means that it has been a council decision for those unitaries. So you have the 2 or more councils that have put forward a proposal for what we're calling mergers for a unitary. So you have Tauranga City and Rotorua agreeing that with the 3 remaining councils, we should be unitaries of Tauranga and Western Bay together and Rotorua alone. So that's the councils making the decision on option 1. Option 2, if we wish to submit just the Rotorua unitary, which won't be eligible, then that is leaving it to a minister or a cabinet, because it's not eligible and we haven't made a decision as local councils, then that is forcing the hand of a minister or cabinet at the time to determine who the unitaries will be.
Sorry, I'm reading number 2 as we're going alone without anybody else's involvement, so the minister can make his decision either way. Am I right in that?
So this is a good thing to clarify, because when we say develop a joint eligible pool, this is option 1, develop a joint eligible proposal for a central Rotorua unitary with Tauranga City Council, that is only to be eligible and meet the criteria of Head Start, because you need another council. For us to be part of Head Start, you need any other council, it could have been Taupo, it could have been South Waikato, to say within this region we agree on these mergers. And then this is where, and Andrew can jump in if he wishes, this is where it gets difficult, and we've seen the significant dysfunction across other regions, because some regions have chosen to take up that option of 2 or more councils or majority population, and then they do force and they tell the rest of, and at times multiple other councils, where they should sit. And that's what we've seen with Taupo as well, who tried to go on their own but were then named in a Waikato Head Start pathway as well, so we don't know how that will conclude. So to bring it back to Rotorua, we're only going with Tauranga City Council to put in a proposal that Rotorua is on its own, and that, yes, we agree that Tauranga and Western Bay should be a Western unitary.
My colleagues say that makes sense. I'm struggling with it, to be honest. The second paragraph.
Oh, should I do it? We'll see if Andrew can have a go.
Yeah, Councillor, just I might be very efficient with my words. If your resolution as currently drafted instructs me to create a eligible proposal, an eligible proposal means that Western Bay would be forced into an amalgamation with Tauranga City Council. That's the only way Tauranga City Council and Rotorua can develop an eligible proposal under Head Start.
That's right. So someone's forcing Western Bay against its current resolutions and will.
Well, as the resolutions are drafted, that would be me, under your direction.
Yeah. And also what I have tried to make clearer in this as well is that, and in option 2, and then it says this option would not meet Head Start eligibility criteria and would also result in Tauranga being ineligible, but signals Rotorua Council's intention and value of only collaborating with willing councils. So I've tried to incorporate the feedback of councillors, but also make it really clear that, unfortunately, being the final cab off the rank, the last one to make a submission, it has left us in a position where, yes, today we have options before us that could either be seen to force Western Bay of Plenty into a Tauranga and Western unitary, or be seen to force Tauranga City Council, who want to go, who have unanimous support, seen to force them out of an eligible Head Start proposal, which they could partner with us, and into backstop. So it's both ways. It is difficult, but we do have an option before us where we can make a decision instead of being government-led. Got Councillor Barker, and then Councillor Patterson, and then Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Bishop. This probably follows on from that question around this potential proposal with Tauranga City Council. It's possibly a question for our staff. I think the wording used was we're going to combine Tauranga City Council's document with ours and submit one proposal. How do you envision merging those two documents and submitting it as one based on the fact that they are quite different and have quite different asks in them?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Barker, and I'm more prepared for this question this time because we've been doing a bit of work in the background to figure out the mechanics of how this might work should this council make these decisions. So very much now the approach would be to leave the two documents unaltered and write a very short covering letter that would, based on these resolutions, I would be authorised to sign. I've confirmed with Tauranga City Council their Chief Executive would also be authorised to sign something to that effect, and we'd have to collaboratively work out the wording. We would not alter either document. We would not adjust either document. And so the document that would go describing the central unitary would be the same document you received as an attachment on the 7th of August, which you have in Stella as the draft proposal from this council.
Thank you. And a further question. Did I understand correctly that the CEs will work on the wording for the letter that goes with the proposals?
Again, that's what Tauranga City Council's resolution authorises the CE to do. That's been passed, and based on option 1, that's how I would interpret that resolution as currently drafted.
Okay, thank you.
And I think our expectation is it's brief. It just notes that this is the proposal with the two proposed unitaries of a Western and a Central. So we've got Councillor Patterson, Deputy Kaifong, Timera Benfell. Please let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, we'll move into discussion very shortly.
Just a quick question on the community and iwi strong endorsement comments that seem to permeate through here. We have a meeting scheduled for the 2nd of September with our partners, which they requested, on my understanding, following a recent iwi chairs hui. So are they aware of what we're doing today? And if so, what's the point of that meeting other than just to inform them? I thought they're supposed to be our partners and involved in this process.
Yes, thank you very much. Through Te Tato Aotearoa, who are the administrative body, I have had a discussion with Jude prior to this to ensure that they are aware that the Minister gave us a brief extension, and we will attempt to do this on Wednesday. Regardless of that, the 2nd of September is a meeting that they've just asked to conclude this process. I think that's actually a quite nice way to be able to conclude it, because they were significant contributors in terms of ensuring iwi engagement on this and giving us that final proposal and the presentation in person. So my understanding is it's an opportunity just to wrap up that work and to share any final reflections that they may have on that.
Okay, so just to clarify, the recent iwi chairs hui didn't come out with any new information that they wanted to share with us before we make a decision. Is that my understanding?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And up until I informed Jude, they were probably of the perception that we had missed the opportunity, but so I was quite pleased to say that the Minister has granted an extension because, as noted in here and in the previous reports, they were strongly supportive of the Head Start process and understanding based on the feedback, not only from iwi but also from Western Bay of Plenty, who were not very strong or keen on us acquiring per se the Kaituna River catchment. As you would have heard, they also still supported that. So the Mai I Makatuki Tongariro, they also were understanding that if it's just Rotorua only, with the door open for taupo, which is consistent with what we've said.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, followed by Councillor Timera Benfell.
Thank you, Chair. How long is the proposed extension for that we've been granted to complete this process if option 1 is granted?
As mentioned, we requested 4 weeks. We weren't given that because of practical reasons. The Minister did express his genuine desire for Rotorua to be able to conclude this and his support, and I let him know that we have this meeting on Wednesday. So depending on the decision on Wednesday, this is today, this is the final day for us to be able to put that forward, because I hope we will end with a resolution of direction either way that goes. So Wednesday now.
Okay, so effectively this is this is the deadline. So the question I then have is the CE mentioned that the two proposals, our Head Start proposal and Tauranga's, would be merged as one document to effectively become one proposal. Our document has some bespoke requests in there. I don't know what's in Tauranga's document. Will there be another opportunity for us to approve the final document if it's to go in as one? But you're saying...
If I can, through you, ma'am, just to clarify, I was saying we would not alter the two documents, so that the two documents would be as they were, and we would write a covering letter that would seek to have those two documents treated as a single proposal. However, I would not seek to alter the documents that you've received.
I think
if I can also add to that, just based on the discussion at a mere level as well, there was a commitment made in understanding and acceptance that it's not our role to be providing comment, altering or approving other sub-regions' proposals. So there wasn't an expectation of that, but if we do submit to Head Start, it is through the detailed design. So Cabinet Government Minister has been quite clear throughout this process. The decision for us now within those 3 months is whether or not we wish to be in Head Start, and then if we say yes and it's approved in September, then the detailed design starts, which is where if we do proceed with option 1, we'll seek to, alongside Tauranga and Western Bay of Plenty, be able to finalise any of those bespoke arrangements.
Now, I think what my concern is here is that we have bespoke arrangements that we have specifically asked for. I'm assuming that Tauranga will have inserted into their documents. I'm not the bespoke arrangements that they want, given that Western Bay is absent from the proposal, and we are effectively submitting as one. We don't know what is being asked for from a bespoke arrangement situation, and I know that you said that you do not want to alter the document, but the concern that was raised at the last meeting too was around the $9 million deficit from Quayside. In our bespoke arrangements, that is not mentioned. It only refers to protection from inherited debt, but it doesn't talk about the distribution or the opportunity to keep the Quayside investments available for distribution to whatever unitary comes about. So I'm just signalling some concern about not having the opportunity to kind of approve, if you like, the final Head Start proposal, so that you're saying there is no opportunity, full stop. This is it.
Thank you. I'll provide a brief answer just to reassure you and all councillors that through that was the case right from the start. So we had signalled, and if Western Bay was supportive, we had signalled on the 29th meeting based on those 3 sub-regions. So at no stage had we probably signalled through council that that was the expectation, that we would, that it was only the Bay of Plenty mayors that will sign a cover letter, and in that cover letter was where we were going to agree on things that collectively as a region that we want. So yeah, we've sort of allowed independence across the sub-regions, but where there is agreements for now, that was the original intention, but of course once one council pulled out, that cover letter was no longer a valid plan moving forward. So through detailed design is actually maybe a further question to the CE, because my understanding is that it is through the detailed design that they'll do that, and MCERT and ministers are not at this stage. I'll take that back one step. When we did bring in an MCERT staff member to present to us, and these sorts of questions were asked to them about what can we put into it, I even asked things like, can we be putting in, well, Crown should pay, like subject to Crown paying GST on their buildings. We had a very clear answer from them at the time that the more you put in, the less likely that it would be to be accepted. So you can interpret that in one way or another, but my interpretation will be that based on the comments from staff and ministers, that they are just seeking, do you wish to be in Head Start or not? And then through that detailed design, we can finalise that.
Sorry, Your Worship, I thought that our draft proposal did include quite a number of those negotiable things, although we changed them to kind of negotiable as opposed to being requirements.
Through you.
So what my question was is that if Tauranga submits one, I don't know what's in theirs as bespoke arrangements, and given that Western Bay obviously had some concerns previously around how the two councils would work together, I just once again have some nervousness about approving without seeing what we're being asked to approve as a proposal.
Councillor, Deputy Mayor, through you, Your Worship, I'm not sure if I'll be able to allay your nervousness, but just to outline the path forward. Indeed, as we workshopped on the 5th of August, we have refined the drafting of our document to be clear that those requests from government are all negotiable. However, there is an off-ramp built into the documentation, which you will see it was received by Council on the 7th of August, that indicates that should those negotiations not be to our Council's approval, that we were seeking an off-ramp. It's been indicated to us that if that proposal is assessed, they would seek clarification from us under what circumstances that off-ramp would be affected. It is true that it's likely if we're seeking this to be one proposal, then they would come back and ask for a reconciliation between the Tauranga City Council bespoke requests and ours. But at this stage, without knowing how that's going to be treated, I'm not able to answer exactly how that would be done. But my understanding is for those who have submitted Head Start proposals to date, the Ministry is going through a process of understanding more detail what the status of each of those bespoke requirements are. So there would be I expect there would be a further clarification phase.
And I think there is some confusion on the proposal. The proposal is that there's a Western unitary, if we're going with option one, a Western unitary, and they can create their own bespoke arrangements, and a Rotorua unitary as well. If we were to go do bespoke arrangements that cross both of those two unitaries, separate unitaries that we're trying to do, we would also very likely be looking at that across the Bay of Plenty region. So through the Head Start option is, and previously the government called it the CTB, but through the Bay of Plenty Mayoral Forum we would seek to help to resolve that. And Bay of Plenty Regional Council, who have been part of this process as well, Chair Mate Moana and CE Fiona, have very kindly offered that, depending what happens after all of these decisions, to host a forum with all of the councils in the Bay of Plenty region, or all of the councils that are part of Head Start, so that we can begin that work together as well. So we've got a few more. We've got Councillor Temera Benfell, Brown, Patterson, and then Lee.
Kia ora, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for that overview. My question is, I have just open in front of me the policy statement from the Minister, and just looking at here at this timeline, September, Cabinet agrees to proposals and principles, but final proposals are not due till March, with Cabinet confirming those proposals in May of next year, 2027. So between now and the final Cabinet approval in May, are you aware of how much we can change our initial proposal? Because with proposal one, though it brings in a party against their will as we've established, perhaps between now and that time of March or May, there's an opportunity for us to support support favourable terms or favourable conditions as part of the final proposal. I don't know what that would look like, but potentially 2 separate local boards for Tauranga and Western Bay if it's an independence issue, or I don't know the extent of what their debates or conversations were. What does that look like? How far can we deviate from our initial proposal between then and the final proposal?
Thank you, Councillor. So I can provide some clarity, but probably not all, because we've not been able to get all of it from officials. The first point is they were also very clear that the process is voluntary. However, once you're accepted in, you don't really have the option to exit unless you specifically build in an off-ramp, which is what we've sought to do with our text, with our drafting. The second question is around introducing new requirements. And again, I think officials have made clear to us, you need to tell us now what you want. And if you don't tell us now what you want, it becomes quite hard to add negotiation points further down the track, because the Cabinet would be approving in principle an outline proposal based on what they know. And if we as a party to that were to seek to add further things in future, it's unclear whether that agreement would stand. And I'm unclear on how Cabinet would proceed with that. I might as well take this opportunity to say there's a whole lot of ifs, buts and maybes between now and then. There's a general election. We're talking about, as you said, you've got the policy statement. What you don't have is legislation. No one has legislation to understand how this would all work. And so the best we know is obviously detailed design is the time to develop what has been agreed in the outline, rather than to introduce new elements to the proposal. That's how I would advise it, but perhaps Her Worship has better intel on how that works with the Minister. But what I understand from officials is what I've advised you on.
So can I just ask a supplementary question regarding the off-ramp clause? Is it a possibility to negotiate with TCC for both of us to have independent off-ramp clauses as part of our proposals, so that if within the next 7 months, if we aren't able to negotiate favourable terms for Western Bay, that we're able to off-ramp before proposals are finalised? Is that a possibility?
It is a possibility. Again, I've raised this with TCC officials. Their advice to us is that they're comfortable. Their staff have advised their council, and their council has built into their document any protections they see fit. We have done the same thing here to the best of our knowledge. If you're comfortable that the document you were presented with on the 7th of August reflects the work we've done to date, the feedback you gave us on the 5th of August, then that's what I would be using under the current drafting of option 1. And that does have an off-ramp built into it. So it's up to you whether you see that as sufficiently strong, or you want to have other resolutions today to strengthen that in the drafting. Or
I would feel more comfortable with, because I do wonder if, because we're operating in such unknown territory, particularly in terms of probably the most significant is our national general election. Because today we're deciding on, and I think that's also where I'm getting hung up as well, is that today we're only deciding on the draft, which is the first outline of a proposal. It's not a detailed final proposal. And so that's, I think, where I'm sort of getting a little bit hung up, is that the process makes you feel as though this is the be-all and end-all, but actually in 8 months' time we'll have another process of approving a final proposal. And for me, if there's an off-ramp, if we haven't been able to negotiate favourable terms with Western Bay and they're still uncomfortable with how it's ended up, that would ease some of my nervousness around supporting option 1, but it would also allow us to have more certainty around the general election by that point as well. So that perhaps is something to be resolved on today, is to have a very clear off-ramp clause in that circumstance.
I can maybe answer part of it, and Worship's indicated try and keep this simple. I agree. I can advise you that I'm confident that the drafting we have in that document gives this council an off-ramp. I don't know whether Cabinet will agree to that, but the drafting is clear that that is what we are seeking.
And can I just ask, sorry, one more supplementary question. So that off-ramp, if, for example, TCC didn't agree to that and their conclusion does include an off-ramp, our policy of an off-ramp would make the entire proposal ineligible anyway, should we withdraw from that proposal. So we're not stuck into something that we don't want to be into at that further point, is my understanding.
That's correct, and that's what officials have said to us, is that off-ramps in one unitary, if they're part of one proposal with another unitary, will apply to the whole proposal.
Thank you. I think we'll go Councillor Patterson and then to Brown and Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I can just read this out. That Council delegate authority to the Chief Executive to work with the Tauranga City Council to develop and submit an eligible Head Start proposal that includes a Western Unitary Authority comprising of the current borders of the Western Bay of Plenty District and Tauranga City as approved by Tauranga City Council, and B, a Central Rotorua Unitary Authority comprising of the Rotorua District as described. Did I read that correctly? So that's actually from our paper on last Friday. So how is it that we're voting on the same thing again when we already voted this down? How can we do that?
Yes, thank you. That question has been raised and staff have answered it already, but I might just see if they can simplify that answer once again.
Yeah, so the no resolution was passed, so that you're able to vote on anything again if you want to. There's no standing order that prevents that, but also this is different in my reading and open to different views. The previous resolution didn't have the Chief Executive to work with Tauranga City on it. It was to approve their proposal on the day, so based on the information that's different, the chairperson, in this case the mayor's, brought a report based on the information that's different with a new resolution 1.
Well, thank you for that explanation, but my understanding is it's the intent that is the key issue with anything like this, that it's the intent. And those 3AB, which are within the first paper, and now are presented again in this paper, and they're the key intent, because otherwise, you see what I'm getting at? The intent is the same.
Yeah, and that's probably just a reflection of the viable options that we have in front of us. That is the only option for us to be part of Head Start, which is why option 1 is the eligible proposal for Head Start. There's no other way that we can be eligible at this stage. Or option 2, non-eligible, Rotorua only, or option 3, backstop.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Your Worship. I appreciate the Deputy Mayor's raised a question around the $9.3 million hole that this process leaves us, but it's not, as I understand it, a quayside distribution. It's the fact that Regional Council currently collect through their general rate, I can't remember the term of the rate, but it's for environmental work around our lakes. Is that correct? And so it's not a quayside issue, it's we dissolve Regional Council, that rate is no longer collected for the benefit of our lakes. Is that correct? So it's a Regional Council. Yeah, please, through the worship.
Yeah, so maybe I'll have a go at that because that's covered both in our paper that was delivered and received and debated at Council on the 29th of July, but it's also addressed in the proposal. It's partly related to quayside and beyond that as well. So at the moment, the figures from the Regional Council, and I have not been able to validate this because we haven't had the time to get into this, and this was covered on the 29th of July, show that more money is collected effectively in the wider Bay of Plenty. More money is collected by the Bay of Plenty Regional Council outside of Rotorua District than is spent here. So, more is spent here than is collected here. All right, so there's a subsidy into the Rotorua district for a number of programs, including lakes, etc. I won't itemise each of those programs. With 3 sub-regional unitary authorities, there is no legal means for that to continue unless bespoke legislation creates those legal means. So effectively, in essence, at the moment, it's not legal for this council to collect money from your ratepayers here to spend on a different district. That same principle would apply if there were 3 sub-regional unitary authorities across the Bay of Plenty. So if Rotorua we were our own sub-regional unitary authority, we would not be able to collect rates from ratepayers outside of the district. Equally, the other unitary authorities would not legally be allowed to collect rates to be spent here. The mechanism, the possible mechanism around that is to have bespoke legislation that creates some rating body that sits across the region, which would then also need to have some governance sitting across the region that might have that ability. Now, that is one possible solution, none of which has been documented by each of the 3 unitary proposals, because that's a matter for more detailed discussion and development. But that has not been detailed and documented, which is why it's outlined both in the 29 July report as well as in our proposal as something that needs to be addressed. Where Quayside comes into it is the quantum. That quantum at the moment with the Quayside subsidy is roughly $9 million, based on the figures from the Regional Council. Without the Quayside subsidy, it's roughly double that.
So I guess the question to the Mayor is, why would I support anything that puts that sort of money at risk for the city when the lakes are so important to us? They're integral to our being.
Yeah, and very good question, and I hope my answer changes your views on some things, because this is exactly why I'm supportive of the Head Start proposal, despite the difficulties of doing that, because only through the Head Start proposal can you have the opportunity, through detailed design up until March next year, to put forward proposals that get bespoke legislation. And I believe that the faster we do that through Head Start compared to waiting until after 2028, the better the outcome will be for Rotorua. So to put into perspective, if we don't go in, then there's only the eastern bays within our region that will be part of Head Start. They will be hopefully accepted, and they will continue to start the work on what that transition of the regional functions and the funding looks like. For us, if we're not part of it, then we are not subject to the opportunity to be able to start that work now in time for 2028, so that a unitary authority can be established. And I will note as well in the initial announcement from government when it was CTBs and also now, it is expected that through the Bay of Plenty Mayoral Forum we will work as a region. So please consider supporting Head Start today is not just the supporting a Rotorua only and a Western with Tauranga and Western Bay. It is us then entering in as a full Bay of Plenty region into the Head Start so that we can resolve these issues across the region.
Thank you. I think I get it. We either fully Western Bay or we put ourselves at risk of losing 9 million plus. Is that not negotiable in our documentation? Can you confirm that?
No, it's not contained in our document. We have not discussed or covered cross-regional subsidisation in our document, and neither of the other regions.
So how do we have some assurity that we can cover this? $9 million is not a small amount of money.
Just thinking quickly, I believe the only option for covering that would be putting it in the cover letter and getting the approval just through the mayors and CEs. In the meantime, that is something that we need to negotiate, and then through the detailed design, something that we negotiate very strongly, and that I believe will come from across the region, not only at council level but also our community level.
Well, that would give me some comfort. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lee and then Councillor Maxwell, please let me know if you have any final questions, otherwise we will wrap this up. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Following along from Councillor Brown's line of questions, there. If we hop on to Head Start, there's no assurance that we'll get the concerns that he raised sorted, and there's no assurance that we would be able to get off the conveyor belt if that were the case. Isn't that the situation before us?
Unfortunately, yes. It is a very difficult decision for all councils across the country at the moment.
Okay, I'd just like to signal that if options 1, 2 and 3 were to fail, I'd be happy to move a fourth option, which would simply accept that Rotorua is progressing into the backstop option. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if we get there. And Councillor Maxwell.
Yeah, we're still in question time, are we? Councillor Lee beat me to it, but I wanted to indicate that I was prepared to move option 1.
Thank you very much. I had signalled to move, but I'm happy to second that. So we do have a mover and a seconder. I didn't have a signal of any other questions. Nope, so that has been moved and seconded. We are now open for discussion. Councillor Te Mara Benfa.
Kia ora, thank you, Your Worship. Just something I wanted to bring to the table is with regards to our iwi Chairs Forum. We've extensively acknowledged their work and contributions to this process, but I also just wanted to reiterate that at one of the working forums I did ask, the question is, do the iwi chairs and the iwi want to be in the Head Start process? It was confirmed absolutely that they do, and that they want to be at the table making decisions for our people and for our community, and supporting the decisions of this council that align with that purpose. We've caught up with them as recently as last night, and that has not changed. But one thing I did want to table is they want to see within the detailed proposal a clear outline about how we're going to work regionally and across catchments as a significant aspect of the detailed proposal moving forward. So if the bespoke legislation allows for cross work, particularly with regards to river catchments and catchments across the region, that is also something that's very, very important. We know option 1 was always Mai Makituki Tonariro. In the event that wasn't able to progress, they are supportive of a standalone Rotorua Unitary Authority. So I just wanted to table that as part of our discussion today, which was reinforced last night when our Māori ward had a meeting with them.
Thank you very much. Councillor Rokawate, followed by Sanford.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I think my fellow councillors know that I would not support the Head Start proposal. I would never support poor government process, and this is exactly what we have. And I'm listening to the questions this morning that are being asked, and I thought they should have been asked long ago while we've been developing the papers and moving through this whole debacle. We've had the government put on us a time frame that hasn't been helpful. I mean, if you want to do something well, if you want to have an enduring and workable solution at the end of the day, then you take your time and you ask the councillors right throughout the country to do it once, do it well, and put up something that you know will be well supported by your community. And this is not a process that allows that to happen. And we see that. We see over there in Tauranga, in the western area over there, where the Western Bay of Plenty Council now is actually with their own Tauranga, they can't come or arrive at a solution that they're going to work together in a fashion that's going to be beneficial. So that to me is poor process in action, and I just think I think long term we won't. There's significant risks, and they've been mentioned. They've been mentioned again this morning, and all the unknowns. And at the end of the day, for me, it's what's it going to cost the ratepayers of Rotorua? We don't know that. Show us the money. Where's the money going to come from? We're going through the RMA process, the review of the RMA and the new legislation that's going to be introduced there. That's going to bring additional costs for our ratepayers. Climate change now, we know that that's going to have additional costs on ratepayers and all of these things. So I just say, where's the money going to come from for that? And to load our ratepayers up with a cost that we don't know at this stage, I just think it's not helpful. It's poor process, and unfortunately in New Zealand, we allow the government to get away with this. We are local government. Right throughout the country, we should have been challenging our government over this. Poor government and poor process gets you in the crap. And I fear for local government over the next wee while. So I will not be voting for this, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Councillor Sanford.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And probably following on from those comments, whether we like this process or not, backstop is going to be worse. This is the process that the government has decided, and like the Olympics that I had to qualify, I might not have liked the qualification processes, but they were the qualification processes given to me. We are living and sitting around this table during a period of change, and mergers are coming, whether we like that or not. The regional council will be gone, and this is not an ideal process, but it is the process where we can shape those changes for the betterment of Rotorua. If we go into backstop, we are highly unlikely to be able to shape the future of Rotorua to the same degree that we are in backstop, in Head Start, and the government has been very clear on that will be their decision, and there will not be the amount of consultation or input from local government in that. Everyone around the table has raised a huge amount of concerns that I think we all share around the future of this, whether there's debt, quayside, the $9 million, whether it's representation. There are a lot of really relevant concerns. These concerns will still exist in backstop, but they will be heightened because we won't be in a position to come up with a detailed response to negotiate our way through this. The only good thing moving forward in Head Start is that this is a draft proposal. It will be hopefully maybe accepted. Then we will be in a position to go through detailed design. There is no detailed design articulated in backstop, none whatsoever. So whether we like Head Start or not, we are in it, and that's why I will continue to support Rotorua standing on our own as a unitary authority, and option 1 in this case.
Thank you. Councillor Lee, followed by Maxwell.
Thank you, Your Worship. According to our CE, we have had no change of circumstances since 7th of August, so what is before us, despite what it says at the top of the page, is not a staff report, it's a chair's report. In my recollection, this is the first time we have been presented with a chair's report since I've been elected. So 10 points, Madam Chair, for your creative use of standing orders to get a decision in front of us that we've really already decided on the 7th of August. In a curious sort of way, it's fitting, isn't it, that last night at 7:30 we were told of this new paper that is before us. Everything about Head Start has been rushed and a drama and a shambles, and so that's hopefully going to finish that way as well. I do acknowledge what Councillor Rotorua Tate has said. This is an unpleasant shambles. So I won't be changing my vote from the 7th of August. I think that backstop actually will give us, firstly, it's nothing to be afraid of. We still have a democratically elected government in Wellington, and they will need to answer to the public, both in a few months' time, but also in 3 years' time. So they're not going to be able to do something drastically unpleasant to us and to our ratepayers and survive without political accountability. Councillor Brown, you've raised a lot of valid concerns. Quayside, the $9 million a year deficit. How can we proceed into Head Start when we don't have answers to those questions and we don't have an off-ramp that we can rely on? I think backstop will give us an opportunity to get our ducks in a row, to give us the opportunity to do our due diligence and to get some answers to those questions over a sensible and reasonable period of time, the next 3 years. I don't envisage that we would sit on our hands for the next 3 years. I'd envisage that we busy ourselves and get some answers to all of those unsolved issues. So yes, I will be putting forward a fourth option if we get that far, just to slide quietly into backstop. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So again, I'll say that I'll be supporting option 1, and it's just my humble opinion, but having given it a lot of thought over quite a bit of time in that now, really, we got caught out a little bit last week at short notice, right at the very end, and I thought that you were very fortunate, Councillor Lee, to get your motion over the line. I thought it was a direct negative against a previous motion that we'd moved, and my fault. I didn't challenge it at the time. But anyway, option 1, I'm voting for it and supporting it because I believe it's what's best for Rotorua Lakes Council, and I wish to have a say in our destiny and future. Even though this is my last term, I hope I don't leave it like you said, ducks in a row. For me, you know, we were in positions, and I repeated this earlier, we thought we were sitting comfortable. We had a vote a month ago, 9 were in favour of it, so there we were, 1 against and 1 abstaining. So what I want to also add to the debate here is I think we are fortunate that our mayor is providing us valuable information, valuable dialogue, because being able to have one-on-one corridor with the Minister of Local Government and people there, we should have placed a lot more trust in our mayor, trying to get also what I believe what's best for Rotorua. Now the other one, I'll try not to repeat exactly what Councillor Terika had said earlier, and that's what I want to finally touch on as our iwi-Māori relationship risk. Te Arawa iwi chairs, through their engagement, have mandated endorsement to support Rotorua submitting a Head Start proposal. They haven't changed from that. A decision against this may damage future trust and collaboration opportunities. So again, like I said, I want to have a say in our destiny and our future. Kia ora.
Kia ora, and thank you very much. Please let me know if you do wish to speak. And I know we also have Councillor Wang online. Please let us know if you wish to speak to. Oh, that didn't sound good. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So here we go again. So just to refresh our memories, I've been going through the transcripts of the last 3 meetings word by word. It's taken me hours. But I needed to do that to make sure that where I thought things were going were where they were going. So, just regarding comments made by the iwi chairs, Hui, remember we had that on the 25th of May? It was our first meeting of serious significance on this issue. We got together with them in this room and we had a great kōrero. Everything was really positive and we were heading in a direction that I thought, wow, this is going to be great. Mai makitu ki tongariro. We'll finally get there. Then we had another workshop with a potential partner or somebody who has a view on the issue, and that was the Bay of Plenty Regional Council. So that was the only other one that we had in that whole time with any other partners. Whereas Western Bay and Tauranga, they had 8 confidential workshops between the 24th of June to the 30th of July. They got into the nitty-gritty detail about how their partnership was going to work. They addressed issues and concerns on both sides, right down to the nth degree. We did none of that. We never sat in the room with anybody else and asked, what's your opinion? We never had the opportunity to say, how do you feel about this? We only relied on the information that we were being given to make our decisions. I thought, come the 29th of July, that everything was hunky-dory. I thought, this is great. You know, the mayoral covering letter, the 3 unitary authorities, we're going to go forward, holding hands in kumbaya, and everything's going to be marvellous. And it turned out that wasn't the case after all. One thing I do remember about the iwi chair's comment is that, yes, they did endorse our moving to a unitary authority. Excellent. But they also said in the same proposals and many times afterward, they did not want to force anyone. Yes, we want to get involved, but no, we do not want to force anyone. Once again, it's the same issue we talked about on Friday. We are effectively forcing Western Bay into something that they do not want. And from their perspective, we've heard that it was timing was their major concern. It wasn't the 90 days that we were all forced to work with. It wasn't that. They had a long list of issues that they were really concerned about, and rightly so when you look at them. They are significant. You can check it out on their minutes. It's all there now. I couldn't find it for ages, but I found it on the weekend. All of their issues are listed in black and white. We didn't have those kind of conversations. So we're making decisions about our future based on what we've been provided, not in a one-on-one kōrero with people on the other side of the table who are affected just as much as we are. To some of the other points raised about the darkness of backstop, Sarah Polishek said that local government would have input. Those were her words. I asked her that question twice. She said, there's nothing in writing yet, but yes, local councils will have input in their future. We will talk to you. And then the minister in a recent interview said that they would work with councils to find the best outlook for their communities who go into backstop. So there was no, it's not going to be a draconian, you will do this. It was, we will work together to find the best outcome for your community. The other thing that I clearly remember from our limited, but we did what we could with the time we had, engagement with our community, was no to an alignment with Tauranga. They preferred us to go south to Taupo. Did we get a chance to talk to Taupo? No. And I'm not saying that was our fault. There was reluctance on their part because they were scared of this whole process too, and rightly so. But now that opportunity is there. It's like when you go to remember those school dances back in the day, when you were told you had to dance with somebody and it gets down and you're still there by yourself, and then, here's you and one other person in the room and you have to dance with them. Ew. Yeah, well, that's where we're at. So once again, a lot of weight has been given to the mayoral cover letter. And while the intent was great on the 29th of July, it didn't work then. Why are we going to put our trust into that working again now? That basically we're just revisiting what we did on Friday and doing it again in a different way. So I'm sorry, I just can't support this. We've made this decision already.
Thank you. I might make some comments now, then we'll go to Councillor Brown and then Councillor Wang. I'll just go there now. Look, I felt perhaps timely for me to jump in here now. I can reassure you that the invitation did go to Taupo Council a number of times for us to try to meet with them. So I want to acknowledge that both Taupo community and the Rotorua community saw a very natural alliance there. As you know, we also, right from the outset, we're working not only with Taupo, but also South Waikato. And I do apologise that we had reassurance that they wanted to come with us, they had the support around their table to come with us, but then again, at the 11th hour, they were invited by some smaller councils in the Waikato region, and that made more sense to them. So I don't hold anything against the other councils that have made decisions for themselves. As mayors, we have worked incredibly hard alongside our CEs. I have tried to keep you updated as much as possible, as soon as possible. And from a mayor perspective, I want to acknowledge that I feel that through this whole process, the Bay of Plenty region has actually worked incredibly well together. So when you look at the difficulties that this dysfunctional process has caused in other regions, I still am really proud of how we've managed to identify very clearly the 3 sub-regions that are natural fits, and that has been backed up by our community engagement and also engagement with iwi. And thank you to the Māori Ward councillors for the update just of last night that the Te Aro iwi chairs still support a Head Start proposal. What I will also say though is 2 wrongs don't make a right. So just because we believe and we know that the government process has been flawed doesn't mean that we then need to also make a poor decision for our community. We know and we have heard from our community very clearly that they do want change in councils. And that's the reason why this whole process is upon us, because the government had heard that regional councils needed to deliver better value. They looked at this and they do, unfortunately for us, have the power, the ability and the legislation to be able to tell us what to do. So although it feels wrong, and not much about this feels right, it is an opportunity for us to actually look at this and deliver that change that our community's been asking for. Because a lot of us have talked about our desire for this council to be financially sustainable moving forward, for Rotorua to continue to have its independence. And without going into Head Start, I can't see any logical way for us to be able to be the masters of our own destiny, or determine our own destiny, as Councillor Maxwell says. So although I know that this has been troubling times for some, for me personally, I've actually been quite excited about the opportunity to finally fix councils, not only across the region, but across the country, in a way that bring and unite the regional functions of looking after the environment with our very important functions of delivering core services on the ground. It makes sense for us to be a Rotorua only. So although we have ended up with the only option of working with Tauranga City purely to submit a proposal, that proposal allows us to be Rotorua only. That is the strongest guarantee that we have for our community, that has told us that apart from merging with Taupo, which our door still remains very much open, that only Rotorua makes sense. So I really want to acknowledge the other mayors, the other councils for their discussion. I do want to acknowledge Western Bay of Plenty. They also spent quite a bit of time discussing and debating that Rotorua should not have the Kaituna catchment. So the Mai Makatuki Tongariro aspiration, I think many of us were first looking at from a catchment and iwi perspective, has not been supported. So I do want to be clear there that moving forward, that seems to be done and dusted, and we will only be looking towards Taupo, nowhere else to merge. So, look, thank you very much to councillors. I know this has had a lot of time and effort for us to come to this conclusion, but I do ask, based on the options before us, and Tauranga City being in a unanimous position to want to go into Head Start, both Tauranga and Western Bay of Plenty communities wanting strongly to go into Head Start, I do just ask that you consider that if you are so opposed, which is why we have option 2 there, to forcing or being seen to force an unwilling council, that you consider abstaining from option 1. The reason I say that is because voting against option 1 is also forcing Tauranga City Council to not be eligible for a Head Start proposal. So it works both ways. I know Tauranga City is very keen to proceed. As I mentioned already, Western Bay and Tauranga City are the most logical. In fact, they're a perfect case study about why councils should potentially be merged. And so I do just ask if you feel strongly against this due to Western Bay or any other concerns that you consider abstaining instead of not supporting, so that we can at least respect the wishes of other councils and communities that do wish to proceed. So I'll now...
All right, point of clarification.
Make it quick.
I really didn't follow your logic or rationale there at all about abstaining. Sorry, that made no sense to me.
There are many things I can't help you with, Councillor Lee. So we will move now to Councillor Brown, and then Councillor Wang, and then Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with my colleagues that have said this is a debacle, quote. It's rushed, shambles, quote. But I think Councillor Sanford has it right when he says we need to be inside to have these conversations with and design. And I think Councillor Tamara Benfield said the same thing. We need to be inside the process to negotiate these things. We're putting a lot of faith in you and the CE and the Minister to come up with something for Rotorua that is better. It certainly cannot be worse. If we come out the other end of this and we haven't filled some of the holes and dealt with the risks that have been put on this table today, we've failed. But I'll vote in favour with my expectation that Rotorua will come out the other end better off.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Councillor Wang.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you so much for the comments from around the table. I really have listened to the concerns, and weighted them heavily as well throughout this process. I support the option 1, but I do it with, again, doing it with my eyes open. The comments around the concerns around the speed of this process and lots more, that uncertainty still exists, and the concerns that Councillor Brown raised earlier around the regional council funding, that is a huge concern of mine. But as we discussed a week and a half ago, those concerns still remain even if we do go backstop, and the fact that those concerns are real, and we can't brush them aside, but it really is, in my view, that going with this option preserves our ability to stay at the table and to have our voice heard. Because I'm more concerned about Rotorua stepping away from the table entirely and leaving our future to the backstop process, where, exactly like Councillor Patterson said, that final shape, we still don't know what that will look like. But I think in supporting Head Start today, we're not endorsing that every detail that may come, but it's more about that decision to stay involved in that process, and so that we can keep asking the hard questions, and we can insist on those bespoke arrangements that we have already discussed, unique to our Rotorua needs, that financial due diligence that we require as well. And most importantly, it's to protect Rotorua's interests so that during that detailed design process and as that develops. To me, it's going through this process is about that we're ensuring that we're proceeding with caution and that we are doing it as transparently as possible. With the limits and the boundaries that central government have given us. And obviously we're doing that with and respecting not just our current community needs, but very much so our future community needs and what that might look like. But at the end of the day, I want Rotorua to retain as much influence over our own future as much as possible. And for me, that's why this option, why Head Start is the better option here. And, again, both options, I think we are stuck in kind of weighing, well, both options aren't perfect. And I can't come up with a better analogy than the one that Councillor Sanford came up with being an Olympian. But, just to finish it off, I would rather remain at the table with the ability to challenge and shape what comes next, so that we're holding the pencil rather than being given the drawing. And for me, it's about Rotorua taking hold of the pencil for as long as possible so that we can determine what our future looks like, stay at the table, have our voice heard, have our concerns heard, and help shape what the future looks like rather than completely leave the room and hope that the final decision works for Rotorua. That risk is just too high for me. So although I'm not entirely happy with this process, option 1 would be my preferred option. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. Councillor Barker.
Thank you, Worship. I just want to start by acknowledging Mayor Tapsell and the other mayors from across the Bay who have made every effort to put together alliances across the boundaries of our territorial authorities to try and get something happening in this process. It's been a massive piece of work for them all. Also, I'd just like to acknowledge CE Andrew and Mr Fellows and the team for their work on the proposal, because they've put together the aspirations of our district in that proposal, and it reflects our desire to go into three distinct unitary authorities delivering the Bay functions together. I also note that in what's in front of us today, there are 3 options. 2 of the options actually are to proceed to Head Start. So number 1 is not the only option that we have to proceed into Head Start. Number 3, of course, is to go into backstop. And the reason I mention option 2 is because option 1, we are actually disregarding the decisions that have been made around other decision-making tables in our district, in our region. It's very clear from the meetings, as Councillor Patterson has outlined, that they had multiple reasons that they were uncomfortable with and could not reach agreement with Tauranga City Council around what was going to their amalgamation might look like. So we were also really clear in our resolutions on the 29th of July that we did not want to be forced into any configuration that was forced us against our will and without our approval. And we also decided on the 29th, as Councillor Maxwell has said, 9 in favour, was that we would not force an unwilling party as well. And here we are turning around and doing exactly that if we follow this course for option 1. Now, you could argue that that path will be followed anyway in option 2, but it won't be us doing it. We would hope that in option 2 there would be some more discussions between Western Bay and Tauranga City Council and the MCERT. But again, it's assumptions. There is an abundance of assumptions in all of this that we're talking about today. Is the backstop actually going to be worse? Who knows? It's an assumption that we're making. And the language is changing every day from the ministers. the off-ramp clause. It's an assumption that that actually will get passed and the government will accept that. Another assumption. What are Western Bay of Plenty's concerns exactly? Well, we don't really know apart from the minutes that we've seen. We have not had a conversation. We're making assumptions. So I know our community wants change. We can all see that there needs to be change in the way that local government is structured. And dare I say it needs to go wider than just local government, but we'll leave that for another day. My concerns around this is that we will need to be sitting around the table with our colleagues at Western Bay. And I do not see that us manoeuvring them into an amalgamation with Tauranga City Council through this resolution is actually going to give us a very good grounding to start our work. It's not a positive way to start a relationship, no matter what it is, and you're right, Your Worship, it does feel wrong, and if it feels wrong, it usually is. And I just can't see that this pathway to the Head Start is the one that I could actually comfortably live with, so I'm sorry I can't vote for this today.
Thank you very much. And Deputy Mayor Kaifong.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've listened to what my colleagues have had to say. This is still troubling for me. I think Councillor Barker's probably been reading my notes. I had a similar thought as well. I go back to the 29th of July. We, in our own resolutions, said that we noted the risks, but the proposals could only be finalised with the approval of other named councils. And that was passed. And we said that that was a principle. We didn't want anyone to force us into an amalgamation without our approval. And here we are today, potentially going to make that decision. My view is that we can still have the opportunity to negotiate with government, to show them what we're looking for the reform that I think that everyone agrees we need to do, but without forcing Western Bay to do something that it doesn't need to do. Option 2 still delivers the opportunity for us to provide the government with the work that's been done, the proposal about how we want to shape our district, the concerns that we have, but I am still really, really uncomfortable about the principle that we just go against everything that we said. Don't force us, but by the way, we're just happy to force Western Bay. And you know, I just asked today about whether or not we had the opportunity to look at what the Tauranga proposal says. We don't know what that says. What's in their Head Start proposal that's in our proposal, which talks about the off-ramps, the conditions that we want? Tauranga's got their proposal, which has got the Tauranga proposal and their bespoke requests and conditions. But are Western Bay in there? No, they're not. So I don't know what Western Bay wants. I don't know if that's going to be good or bad for them, because basically the CE is going to put our proposal together with the Tauranga proposal, which we haven't even seen, send it with a cover letter, and then fine, sorry, Western Bay, you're in it, whether you like it or not. I'm sorry, that just doesn't sit right with me. And I'm sorry, Your Worship, this is not a situation where I can abstain. I spoke about this strongly at the last meeting. Those feelings haven't changed. Councillor Brown, I would urge you to consider option 2. We still have the opportunity to participate in Head Start. That should ease the concerns of Councillor Sanford and Councillor Wang, and that we still have the opportunity to negotiate with the government. And in fact, on the Monday after the Head Start deadline had closed, Minister Watts was online saying, "We know what happens when government tries to do it from Wellington. We want local voices to be heard. We're happy to negotiate. We're happy to collaborate. We want to take on board those lessons that have been learnt." So I don't think there's any rush to get us through the door into Head Start. There's going to be plenty of opportunity to have those negotiations with government. There are going to be plenty of opportunities to work through all of the concerns that still haven't been answered from last time around how we do the transitional arrangements, how we deal with the debt situation, how we deal with Quayside, how we deal with cross-regional subsidisation, how we deal with all of those other things that we asked for in our negotiables. Let's take the time to do that properly. You know, you don't go in and buy a house and then do your due diligence later. You do that up front. So let's take the time to do that due diligence now. I don't see that there is any rush, that we're not going to be at the table, we're not going to be able to negotiate with government just because we haven't submitted a Head Start proposal, and we can still submit the Head Start proposal if we go option 2. So still achieve the same outcome, but we don't force Western Bay into doing something that they do not want and haven't been a party to, and have not prepared a Head Start proposal that anyone else even knows what they're wanting to achieve. So I can't support this, and I won't be voting for this, and I would urge councillors to consider perhaps option 2 as a way to at least achieve an open discussion with government around what we propose for Rotorua in terms of reform.
Thank you very much. Well, that is everyone, and so I thank you for sharing your views. As you can see, this has been challenging, but there is also an opportunity before us as well. So I do just want to make one final correction though. Option 2 is not eligible for Head Start. That is very clear, and I have had that confirmation from the Minister directly as well. So that is why I am putting forward option 1, which has been moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by myself. Now, apologies, what I will do is ask for a raise of hands so we can clearly record the vote. And as mover, did you like to have... Yes, of course, Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillors. Thank you, councillors. Everyone's had a say, but, you know, honestly, if we don't support option 1, then we may as well all go and have a 6 to 12-month holiday and wait for the government to tell us what they're going to do here for Rotorua. Have a bit of faith and trust in the people who've worked very, very hard for us, and it's been acknowledged by some of our colleagues, and that, thank you, Madam Mayor. I know that it's been huge time and effort on your part, and I appreciate the report that you have put forward to us. Nothing wrong with that. Thank you to the CEO and the staff that really you were flying blind and doing the best you can to answer all the questions we've been putting forward. But the thing is, it has been said, we'd rather be there in the tent helping make the decision, otherwise go for a holiday. So just with those few comments and that, I do hope that we don't come out of this like the last meeting where even our community didn't know what the hell we were doing. They thought, what have you done? I said, oh, true, you know, we didn't know what we were doing at the time. Now it's very clear what we want to do is that we want to have a say in our destiny and our future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it's all been said, so I will now put this to the vote. Just to make clear, if this does fail, we will be open for anybody to put another option on as well. So I'll read it out. Option 1, develop a joint eligible proposal for Rotorua Central Unitary with Tauranga Council. That Council direct the Chief Executive to work with the Tauranga City Council to submit an eligible Head Start proposal that includes a Western Unitary Authority comprising of the current borders of the Western Bay of Plenty District in Tauranga City as approved by Tauranga City Council, and a Central Rotorua Unitary Authority comprising of the Rotorua District as described in the proposal presented to the Extraordinary Council meeting on 7th of August 2026. That's moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by myself. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And those against? That is carried. Thank you very much, everyone. We will note the votes accordingly. What I will suggest now, that has been a big decision for us. Thank you very much to our guests who are here, who will be presenting next. I apologise to keep you waiting, but we will just take a quick 10-minute break. We will come back. We'll come back at 12:30 and then proceed with the remainder of our agenda. Thank you.
Kia ora, Your Worship. Just excusing myself.
council meeting, and thank you very much for that brief break. While that concludes the agenda, we still have the public side of the agenda. We still have the notice of motion to address, and then we will head into public excluded. And I do want to acknowledge that we have our friends from CoLab who will be presenting to us as well. So I revert you back to page 35 of our agenda. This is a notice of motion from Councillor Lee. I will just read it and then ask for a seconder, and then invite Councillor Lee to address it. So that the Ombudsman letter attachment 2 be received, that the Ombudsman final opinion be accepted, and point 3, that Mr Hammond be invited to attend the next council meeting and be given 5 minutes to address council, as he should have been allowed to when he submitted his petition, and to receive a public apology. I'll just check if I have a seconder for that to be received. That's seconded by Councillor Patterson. What I'll do now is invite Councillor Lee if you have any comments on this. And I do want to acknowledge that Mr Hammond has joined us in the chamber today. Thank you very much. Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Your Worship, and welcome to our chamber, Terry Hammond, former owner of the Lakeland Queen. So I recall about November 2023, Mr Hammond found my number on the council website, gave me a call. That was the very first time I had heard from Mr Hammond, and he had a raft of concerns and issues about how council had been dealing with him and the challenges he faced as the owner of the Lakeland Queen. It was my advice to him that he present a petition to council, require only 20 signatures, and that would give him an opportunity to air his concerns to all of us collectively and together and in front of the media. My knowledge of standing orders was limited in those days, but that was the one and only mechanism I was familiar with for allowing Mr Hammond to come and talk to us. He prepared his petition, he got hundreds of signatures, and I was surprised, dismayed actually, when our council refused to accept his petition. In fact, I have to say, it shook my confidence in this council, or that council, and in the leadership of it, because it was blindingly obvious to me that this petition ought to have been accepted at the time. It was claimed that it was outside the scope of council, which I found baffling. I mean, it's not like the Lakeland Queen jetty is found in the Chatham Islands or something. It was affected by the redevelopment of the lakefront, which council spent $20 million on, with central government also spending $20 million on it. So I laid a complaint with the Ombudsman in December 2023, which began with something like WTF. And it's taken a couple of 2.5 years to wind through the machinations of the Ombudsman before he has finally concluded that the petition was within the scope of council and the decision to decline the petition was unreasonable. I'll second that motion. So, colleagues, I would ask that we do the right thing, and as I have set out in my recommendation, that we receive the Ombudsman's final letter, his opinion, that we accept the Ombudsman's opinion, and that we invite Mr Hammond to attend a future council meeting and be given the time that he should have been given, and that we offer him a public apology. I'm happy to take questions if there's any questions on that, but other than that, I trust that you will treat this as a no-brainer and an effort on our part to right a historical wrong and do the right thing today.
Thank you, Councillor Lee, for raising this. As this has occurred quite some time ago, I'll just ask the Chief Executive to provide just a brief summary of facts account of this as well.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, just want to be clear, there were two petitions. One was presented before my time, which is the one that's subject to the Ombudsman's ruling. The second was presented during my time as Chief Executive, which was accepted, and as part of the correspondence with the Ombudsman in considering the first petition, the Ombudsman recognises that the decision made in accepting the second petition was correct. And in that reference, in my view, my advice is that actually I feel like the petition has been accepted when it reached me. In the Ombudsman's final letter, he does actually conclude that he doesn't make any further recommendations. We've already, as Council, I've already decided to accept the conclusion and the findings, and Ombudsman has not made any further recommendations for us to do anything differently as a remedy. So I guess I just want to clarify that it's not the case that this petition was never received. It was then subsequently received and approved by myself and came to Council.
Right, so if I could just clarify something in there. This is a topic I am somewhat familiar with both before you came along and afterwards, and I can confirm that it was exactly the same petitions that were presented on both occasions with the same signatories and the same wording for the petition.
Which was accepted by me.
Which was accepted, but on the second occasion it was presented by the Save Our Iconic Lakeland Queen group. So it was never presented by Terry, and Terry didn't have an opportunity to speak to Council when the petition was presented for the second time. So this is really intended to give Terry his first opportunity to address us, as he should have been able to in December 23.
Thank you. So we are open if there are any questions. I had asked Councillor Lee what he seeks to achieve with the public apology, like what does that look like, and just if you wish to confirm, that would look like a letter from myself on behalf of the Council to Mr Hammond, just to clarify that. And sorry, I do have another question. The 5 minutes to address Council is as part of a public forum?
Well, yes. I mean, after the petition was refused, we discovered the public forum standing order, and but that was missed off of our council agendas. So it was 6 months after that we gave effect to our standing orders and allowed public forums. So it is true that Mr Terry could come along to any future council meeting and speak to us for 5 minutes. It's just that in his time of need, way back when, and he had gone to some effort to speak to us through the only mechanism that we understood available to him at the time. It's just a courtesy really to invite him personally to come to us and talk to us, as he should reasonably have been allowed to do way back when.
Okay, thank you. Councillor
Brown? Question for Councillor Lee or someone through you. If I may, are we apologising for not receiving the petition the first time, which we subsequently received, or is it something else we're apologising for?
Through the Chair, we're apologising for rejecting the petition in December 2023, when we should have received the petition and given him his opportunity to speak to us in front of the media.
Okay, but we received it later and there was no problem with that. Okay.
A separate group presented it later. Terry's never had an opportunity to speak to us.
Perhaps just to, we'll go to Councillor Sanford very shortly, but perhaps just to wrap this up, because it is quite simple at a table that we normally discuss quite, as you've seen in our previous decision, quite strategic matters. So I just want to signal that I'm as Mayor, perfectly comfortable to write an apology, but I do want to note that as part of this process, when that all occurred, that there was an opportunity for the petitioner to contact us directly, which you'd see as well when it was our previous interim CE they had not been informed of that at the time as well. So although I don't necessarily accept any wrongdoing, I feel this matter has been concluded, which also the Ombudsman has mentioned, quote, given the matters regarding the Lakeland Queen and the petition have moved on considerably since the decision in question was made, I have not made any recommendations. So despite not having a recommendation to apologise, I just want to say I am comfortable to do so, to wrap up this process, and also comfortable as long as it's still relevant and Mr Hammond wishes to provide that opportunity as well through the letter. Councillor Sanford?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And just because this predates me a bit, I'm not so familiar with the processes that were followed here, so maybe a little bit technical. So there were two proposals, two petitions put in. With the second petition, did they actually come and present to council and speak at council?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes, but it was the same petition.
Same petition, but different body.
Different presenter.
Different presenter,
Yep.
yeah. And when Terry's first petition was turned down, did we correspond with him about how he could present to council about his concerns in other ways beyond the petition?
Yes.
And did he?
Councillor, I don't have the full records of the correspondence, but my understanding is that there continued to be correspondence. But like I said, that was before my time. I don't have that in memory.
So just by way of a little context, the Ombudsman had presented his report about the Rotorua Council in October 2023 about our lack of openness and transparency, particularly as it applied to workshops. So the offer that was made to Mr Hammond after his petition was rejected was to take the conversation offline and to meet away from the media, and that particular offer was declined because I understand part of the whole purpose of presenting a petition in public in front of the media is to be able to have his concerns recorded and put on the public record.
Thank you. Well, I think that's enough for our understanding. We do have the notice of motion with the letter from the Ombudsman, which was sent to us on sent to Councillor Lee on the 29th of June, and also just correspondence between the Manager of Investigations, Rich, and also our Chief Executive. So there has been a mover and a seconder. I'll put that to the vote. I'll just read it, that the Ombudsman letter be received, that the Ombudsman final opinion be accepted, that Mr Hammond be invited to attend the next council meeting and be given 5 minutes to address council as he should have been allowed to when he submitted his petition, and to receive a public apology. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. I will just send a copy of that letter to councillors as well for your information. And thank you, Mr Hammond, for joining us today. So now we move into... Oh, yes, sorry, Councillor Maxwell. At the next council meeting. Yeah. Or whatever. We'll find a date if you wish. Thanks. So now we move into public excluded. This is on page 54, and I do want to advise that there are 4 items for consideration in public excluded session. Consideration has been given to public interest in these matters and officers' advices.
Excuse me,
yes.
Madam Chair, I don't mean to interrupt, but I am going to, because I just assumed that because Mr Hammond is here and the 5 minutes that we had said he could come along, would we not do that now? Yeah. he's waited and, well, he's listened, of course, sat quietly, and, I just feel it's unbelievable that we would say, we'll see you later, and come back again.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Councillor O'Connell, for checking. Mr Hammond is fine to present at a future time. We've had a brief discussion.
Sorry, I wasn't aware. Thank you.
No, that's fine. Okay, so I will just continue with this. Officers' advice is that the above reasons for confidentiality outweigh the public interest in these matters, and I will just raise these items. We have the confidential minutes of the ordinary council meeting held on 29th of July. We have appointment of board members for Rotorua Regional Airport Limited, a CCO, and also building consent checking assistant, co-lab funding and development proposal. And I'll just take the reasons as read, but that is section 7 to A. And apologies, the final item is also Chief Executive's KPIs for financial year 2027, which is in confidential for section 7.2 as well. I will also just note that I would like our Chief Executive to give a verbal update on two matters. First of all is the High Court findings regarding Lake Rotokakihi, just to inform councillors, and also a second item is just regarding the unfortunate landslides of Mowau as well. So there will be an announcement of the findings of that report this afternoon, I believe at 2:00, and so just an opportunity for you to be given a heads up in confidential by the Chief Executive before that's made public. So I ask for a mover and a seconder that we move into public excluded. That's moved by Councillor Brown, seconded by Councillor Sanford. All those in favour, please say aye. Any against? That's carried. Thank you. We'll take a short break now as we do need members of the public.